Hello students, good morning. Myself Shashi Rai from Green Valley English School. In class 11th Political Science, we were discussing the chapter Judiciary. We were reading the topic Judicial Activism, and today we will start further. Judicial activism had manifold impact on the political system. इनका एक impact नहीं है, जो हमारा judicial activism है इसका manifold कई तरीके से ये हमारे political system को influence कर रहा है. It has democratized the judicial system by giving not just to individuals but also groups access to the court. Ultimately इसके पहले क्या था? Only people, a single individual was approaching the courts. But now after the judicial activism, even the groups can approach, and through PIL and different things that happened, they can directly approach to the judiciary and then they can get justice. It has forced the executive accountability. It has also made an attempt to make the electoral system much more free and fair. इससे क्या होता है? अकाउंटेबिलिटी किसकी बने? कौन ज़्यादा आंसरेबल बना हुआ है? नाउ द एग्जीक्यूटिव विंग, द ब्यूरोक्रेसी हैज़ बीन मेड more accountable. They are answerable to the people. They are answerable to the judiciary towards each and every actions of them. और ज़िंदगी में कोई भी डिसीजन वो लेते हैं, उनका पूरा उत्तरदायित्व तो बनता है, उनकी पूरी जवाबदेही बनती है कि why they are taking such decisions, such steps. It has also made an attempt to make the electoral system much more free and fair. और हमारे यहाँ जो चुनावी प्रक्रिया है, जो इलेक्टोरल सिस्टम्स हैं हर जगह हर सिस्टम में, उसको अधिक फ्री एंड फेयर बनाया है, मुफ्त और साफ सुथरा, एकदम साफ, ट्रांसपेरेंट. The court asked the candidates contesting election to file affidavits indicating their assets and income along with educational qualifications so that people could elect their representatives based on accurate knowledge. That means अगर ऐसा नहीं कि आपका क्या बैकग्राउंड है किसी भी पर्सन को पता ना चले, जो वोटर्स हैं उनको पता ना चले, इसीलिए जो कोर्ट है वो आपसे हमेशा एक एफिडेविट फाइल करने के लिए कहती है. दैट मीन्स आप डिक्लेरेशन करते हैं अपने बारे में, व्हाट यू आर हैविंग, आपके पास कितने एसेट्स हैं, मीन्स कितना पैसा रुपया आप रखे हुए हैं, आपकी सोर्स ऑफ इनकम क्या है, कौन आपके पास परमानेंट एसेट है, कुछ आपके पास टेम्पररी एसेट है. ऐसे सारे एसेट्स को मूवेबल एंड नॉन मूवेबल होता है एसेट्स, तो इन सबको आपको डिक्लेयर करना होता है. इवन अलॉन्ग विथ योर एजुकेशनल क्वालिफिकेशन, आपकी एजुकेशनल क्वालिफिकेशन कितनी है. इवन इफ़ यू हैव हैविंग सम क्रिमिनल रिकॉर्ड, यू हैव टू ऑल्सो डिक्लेयर इट इन दैट एफिडेविट. There is, however, a negative side of the large number of PILs and the idea of proactive judiciary. लेकिन हर एक चीज़ का आप जानते हैं, there is two sides of any coin. हर चीज़ का एक अच्छा साइड होता है और एक बुरा साइड भी होता है. इन द सेम वे ये प्रोएक्टिव जुडिशरी होने की वजह से, अधिक से अधिक PIL होने की वजह से बहुत से प्रॉब्लम भी फेस किए जाते हैं. लाइक कोई भी गवर्नमेंट काम करना चाहती है, उसके लिए इतने अगेंस्ट में PIL बन जाते हैं कि वो काम भी नहीं हो पाता समटाइम्स. In first place, it has overburdened the courts. The very first thing that happened, why this proactive judiciary or judicial activism impacted the whole judiciary, that it has overburdened. Now there is too much workload on the judiciary. Secondly, judicial activism has blurred the line of distinction between the executive and legislature on the one hand and the judiciary on the other. Now what judiciary is doing after coming of judicial activism, it has blurred the line. There was separation of power between the judiciary, between the legislature, between the executive. Now judiciary is intervening in the field of executive. Judiciary is intervening right now in the field of legislature. This is what this is doing. This is not following the principle of separation of power. The court has been involved in resolving questions which belong to executive. Thus for instance, reducing air or sound pollution or investigating cases of corruption or bringing about electoral reform is not exactly the duty of judiciary. These functions should be performed by whom? It is the duties of executive. This is not duty of judiciary to take action on these things. But nowadays, being proactive, the judiciary has done something which has been crossing the line of the separation of power. These are matters to be handled by administration under the supervision of legislature. Therefore, some people feel that judicial activism had made the balance among the three organs of government very delicate. Democratic government is based on each organ of government respecting the powers and jurisdiction of the others. In a democratic setup, that I have already told, these are the three organs of government. We have already divided line between them, that no one is going to interfere in each other's area. Each one have their own actions, their own power, their own privileges, their own duties. No one is going to interfere in each other scenario, in each other field of work. Judicial activism may be creating strains on this democratic principle. That means ये कहीं ना कहीं चोट पहुंचा रहा है, हमारा जो डेमोक्रेटिक प्रिंसिपल है उसके ऊपर जुडिशियल एक्टिविज्म चोट पहुंचा रहा है. ये इसका निगेटिव साइड है. Now, judiciary and rights. We have already seen the judiciary is entrusted with the task of protecting the rights of individual. Constitution provides two ways in which the Supreme Court can remedy the violation of rights. If your rights are being violated, Supreme Court provides the remedy. उसका उपचार बताता है, उसका treatment. First, it can restore the fundamental rights by using writs of habeas corpus, mandamus, certiorari, prohibition, quo warranto. They are different, 5 basically. The High Courts also have the power to issue such writs. Now, the Supreme Court issue the writs under the Article 32 and the High Court issue the same writs under the Article 226. Secondly, the Supreme Court can declare the concerned law as unconstitutional and therefore non-operational, that is Article 13. Together, these two provisions of the Constitution establish the Supreme Court as the protector of the fundamental rights of the citizen on the one hand and the interpreter of the Constitution on the other. So these two provisions made by the Constitution make sure that the Supreme Court works or functions as the what? The very first one is the protector of the fundamental rights and another is the interpreter of the Constitution. Second of the two ways mentioned above involve judicial review. Judicial review means whatever the provision, acts, laws provided by the legislature wing of our government, the judiciary will review it, that whether it is according to the provisions of our Constitution or not. Is it violating any particular law of people? Is it violating the fundamental rights of the people? All these things will be checked and even the balanced by whom? By the judiciary. Perhaps the most important power of the Supreme Court is the power of judicial review. That is what I was saying. The most important and the crucial power of judiciary is judicial review. It can review each and every act of the legislature as well as of the executive. Judicial review means the power of the Supreme Court or High Courts to examine the constitutionality of any law if the court arrives at conclusion that the law is inconsistent with the provision of Constitution, such a law declared as unconstitutional and inapplicable. If they find that something is unconstitutional or not according to our Constitution, the Supreme Court and the High Court as well having power to declare it unconstitutional, null and void, that it is violating the basic laws of Constitution. That's why it is declared invalid. The term judicial review is now nowhere mentioned in the Constitution, but we have to keep in mind this term judicial review has not been mentioned or put in the Constitution, but it is still exercised by the Supreme Court because it is the duty of the Supreme Court is to interpret and protect the Constitution. They function as the guardian of the Constitution. However, the fact that India has a written Constitution and the Supreme Court can strike down a law that goes against the fundamental rights implicitly gives the Supreme Court the power of judicial review.